The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to ministers in Cluster 2, Social Services. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for the supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, among others, has been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the executive, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. The first question has been asked by the Honorable Khwarube to the Minister of Health. I have been informed that the Minister will be answering the questions from the chamber. The Honorable Minister.
Order, Chair. Chair, order.
Honorable Mashego, you are recognized.
Chair, it might have been a mistake on your side. You're saying Member Dlamini is replaced as of the 1st of October 2020. How possible is that?
It's 31st of August. Thank you, Honorable Mashego. Your order is sustained. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members. The question 422 by Honorable Khwarube. The response is as follows. The question is about measures taken to curb the scourge of corruption in public health service facilities. The response is as follows. The National Department of Health, through the Office of the Chief Financial Officer, in collaboration with the National Treasury, through the Office of the Chief Procurement Officer, engaged on the commodities pricing to curb the scourge of price taking, elements of price racketeering. Subsequent to that, market prices were reviewed and the maximum pricing of the units for personal protective equipment were kept at the maximum of 15% of the initial price as per Central Supplier Database CSD prior to the announcement of the national state of disaster. Subsequent to that, National Treasury issued an instruction, note number 08 of 2019/20 dated 19th March 2020 to address and provide guidance on the supply chain management process. Furthermore, instruction note number 5 of 2020-21 dated 28th April 2020 followed to address the emergency procurement of commodities to curb the spread of the COVID-19 and controlling the prices per unit. National Treasury Instruction Note 7 of 2020-21 dated 26th of May 2020 was issued to inform the accounting officers and authorities to establish a system of financial management, internal control, risk management, and internal audit under the direction of the audit committees. In addition, the President had raised the issue of curbing corruption with the Auditor General, and therefore we have had engagements with the Minister as well as the department, the DG and the department, to look at ensuring how we do risk analysis and put in place preventative or mitigation measures. In addition, this issue has been discussed with the various MECs and various departments, and particularly we have also discussed with the Minister at Treasury that we need to keep refining mechanisms of ensuring that there is control on the pricing, as well as ensuring good quality, especially of the PPEs, where this issue has been arising of late. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Kwarube in the chamber.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Minister is aware that the country has been outraged by the rampant looting that has taken place across the country by those who are politically connected to the governing party. He is also aware that the direct result of this theft has led to many healthcare workers not receiving adequate PPE on time or being given poor quality equipment while serving on the front lines of this pandemic. Indeed, this kind of corruption is not victimless. Those who have suffered are the people of this country and the dedicated healthcare workers who deserve so much more from their government. Kwezi veki zidlulileyo ndihambele kuwo wonke amaphondo kweli ndiyozibonela ukuba abantu baphila phezu kweziphi imeko kweli xesha le-COVID-19. Kwiphondo ngalinye ibali liyafana, abasebenzi bebeswele i-PPE baye befumana i-COVID-19, abanye babo baye basweleka. Part of the corruption crisis we find ourselves in today is born from the deliberate blurring of the lines between the ANC and the state. That is why it is important that the Minister needs to shed light on this matter without any ambiguity. So, Mphathiswa, can you explain to this House in what capacity was the ANC Secretary General, Mr. Ace Magashule, donating PPE and other related equipment worth millions of rands to the Cuban government several weeks ago? And where did this equipment come from when the country has been struggling to source basic PPE for our healthcare workers?
The Honorable the Minister.
Siyabonga kakhulu ilungu elihloniphekile. Kufanele sonke semukele ukuthi umhlaba wonke, iNingizimu Afrika yonke ikhathazekile ngokutholakala kokuthi khona inkohlakalo lapho kuthengwa khona izimpahla zokuzivikela kubasebenzi bezempilo. Yinto leyo njengenhlangano kaKhongolose esilwayo nayo esihlabayo kakhulu esithi kufanele bonke abantu.
Honorable Minister, maybe you can just pull the mask a little bit down so they can probably hear, and then you put it back again.
Ole.
Thank you, Minister.
I hope I got injury time, House Chairperson.
Proceed, Minister.
Thank you. Ngizafisa ukuqala ngokubonga umbuzo ilungu elihloniphekile. Lithi njengamalunga enhlangano kaKhongolose sonke siphazamiseke kakhulu ukuthi kutholakala kunenkohlakalo lapho kuthengwa khona izimpahla zokuzivikela kakhulukazi kubasebenzi abasebenza enhlangothini zezempilo. Asikwemukeli lokhu, siyakuhlaba kakhulu futhi sithi umthetho mawuqiniswe uthathe indlela yawo ukuze bonke abathintekayo bakwazi ukuthi bajeziswe ngezenzo abazenzile. Akumukeleki ukuthi ngathiwa kukhona abantu abangantshontsha impahla noma basebenzise ngendlela engafanele ukuthola impahla efanele iyovikela labo abangaphansi kumnyango wezempilo ababhekene nokulwa nalesifo. Kodwa ke kunjalo sizame zonke inhlelo zokuthi siqinisekise ukuthi abantu bayavikeleka. Ngakho ke zonke izifunda sesibhekisisile ukuthi lezi ngubo zama PPEs zitholakala zikhona kuwo wonke. Kodwa sitholile ukuthi ingxaki ekhona ukuthi phakathi kwesifunda nesifunda uthola ukuthi ke ayifinyeleli kahle ezibhedlela ezithile noma emaklinika athile. Umsebenzi ke lo sesiwenza ukuthi sibambisane nabasebenzi sesiqiniseka ukuthi amakomiti ethu ayakulungisa ukuthi itholakale ngaleyo ndlela efanele leyo PPE. Umbuzo ke awubuzayo umhlonishwa uthi inhlangano yakhongolo sihlanganisa ukuphathwa kombuso nokuphathwa kwenhlangano yezepolitiki akunjalo ke engakusho nje ukuthi baningi abanikelile ngempahla yama PPEs kakhulu abanye kusaxa ke China kwahlangana abasomabhizinisi abaningi base becela ukuthi bacela ukunikela impahla China. There were donations which were made by South Africans to China. They called us, some of them reported to the party secretary to say they must just be aware that they are making this contribution. It was a symbol of Ubuntu to actually make such a contribution. So I don't believe we can blame anyone who would participate in an effort to help to make donations to any particular country, as it were. I don't have specific knowledge of where the source of the PPEs were, but what I do know, in the past, private sector would put together and then look for a prominent leader and ask that they must work with them to send the donations over. But that does not in its own mean that there's a blurring of party lines and state lines.
Thank you, Minister.
In this case,
your injury time has expired. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much. In this case, even trade unions and parties and organizations
your time has expired,
have done it.
Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Dlaumo.
Very much, Chair. My question has been touched a bit by Minister. Honorable Minister, we have listened to your slogan that you have pronounced on no PPE, no work. Now, this shows a sincere determination to the healthcare workers' rights and their safety. And this is commended on your part. But how do you make sure that all provinces, all healthcare facilities, both private and public, respect and adhere to your command? How do you monitor that this task is performed to its best in order to protect our healthcare workers?
Thank you. Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, House Chairperson. Siyabonga Tinangwe, umbuzo wako. We have coined the slogan, no PPE, no work, because we wanted to express the seriousness with which the Ministry and the Department of Health takes the issue of protection of our health workers on the ground. We've therefore taken this view because each time we were confronted by a query from the union saying there was not enough PPEs, when we got to the management, there would be a contradictory answer to say there are PPEs. We then went into the details as to why this is the case. Then we realized that there is a problem. Whilst there is PPEs available, but it is well stocked in all the provinces, in most of the facilities, the problem is availability, which is based on the distribution, transportation, sizes, quality, and so on. And as a result, therefore, we have agreed with unions in a meeting that all facilities must have occupational health and safety committees. Those committees must give us the response. If there's a complaint from any staff member, that committee must respond, not just management alone. And therefore, they must correct the problem so that no worker is put in an invidious position of having to say, I'm not going to work because I don't have PPEs. Everyone must know, whether you're a leader of union or leader of management, that no one is expected to go and do work. We therefore have sent up a whole team to look at working with unions, that every facility has got a committee of occupational health and safety. And at the same time, we're also going to use the Institute of Occupational Health and Safety to help us to supervise, to assess whether, in fact, all the facilities do have these committees, and that they also train them so that they are able to deal with the issues that are on the table. So we believe that a cooperative relationship between the unions and management needs to be established and strengthened so that there is no person who must feel that they've got to take a decision not to go to work simply because they don't have PPEs. But if they don't have it, the unions and the management must know we take their issue very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The third supplementary goes to Honorable Chirwa from the virtual.
Thank you, Chairperson. The minister recently came out to share his slogan, no PPE, no work. But what is disingenuous about this call is that during my oversight visits to Tambo Memorial Hospital and George Mukhari Hospital, it was raised to our concern that the kind of quality that they receive, your PPE, is of low quality. They even have to wear up to 3 masks at a time. And at Tambo Memorial Hospital, this has resulted in 300 nurses and doctors getting infected with COVID-19. Now, how has the ministry and the Department of Health and the minister taken accountability for the lives of nurses and doctors that were lost due to their corruption, their negligence, and their failure to properly sponsor the facilities with quality PPE? Because the issue now is no longer supplying PPE. That should be very basic, and that's not something you must be bragging about at this point. But the issue is that the quality is so low that nurses and doctors still get infected. How have you taken accountability for the fact that your work has resulted in the fact that people get low standard quality PPE, and you know, because Tambo Memorial Hospital has told the minister and the provincial department, but nothing has been done.
Honourable member's time has expired. Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. At this point, I must say that we have found in a number of areas that when we send inspections, there have been indeed concerns that our teams have found with the availability of the PPEs, and therefore, for me, anyone who has spotted a challenge in any facility, all that it means, we need to go there and investigate and act at that level. So what we have then said is that when there are challenges reported, we need to take action in that facility. So we've instructed all the MECs and heads of department that there must be consequence management in the areas where there's inability to supply adequately the PPEs, and also where there is no committee, occupational health and safety.
Point of order, Chairperson.
This is how accountability is going to be ensured. And
point of order, Chairperson.
Okay, pause, please, Minister, take your seat. Honourable Chira, what's your point of order?
My question was simple. The minister, the national department, and provincial health departments were already told about this, but nothing was done for Tambo Memorial and George Mukhari.
Thank you.
How are they taking accountability for that? They already know.
Honourable Chira, thank you very much. That's not a point of order. Thank you. Please continue, Minister.
Well, Honourable House Chairperson, each time this matter gets raised, we have to go and investigate. In the case of George Mukhari, we did send...
Just a pause, Minister. Minister, please pause. Sergeant and Arms and IT, please mute and remove Honourable Regina and remove from the session. Please, continue, Minister.
In George Mukhari, we actually did send a team led by Professor Mkwena. They have they've brought back the report. It's part of a number of hospitals that we are looking into. And therefore, the issue of consequence management has been given as a directive to all provincial governments and MECs and heads of department. And in this case, we have also said the question of quality has to be looked into. Not only that, even the levels of delegations that are available for the facility to be able to determine what quality, what size, and so on, so that all of those issues can be resolved on the ground. This was the agreement between us and the unions, as well as the National Health Council, where all the MECs and heads of departments are involved. So consequence management must follow where we find that there is inadequate preparation for protection of our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The fourth and the last supplementary question, follow up on this question will be asked by Honourable Mishwe. Honourable Mishwe, from the virtual, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chairperson. In a number of hospitals, some of which we visited this past week, nurses are complaining that they are given inferior and unsuitable masks Some of them are given KN90 masks, and some are given industrial masks. In Telemuerani Hospital in Phosphorus, there is even an allegation that there is a 1% deduction from salaries of nurses that is being made to buy PPEs that they should be getting free of charge. This obviously is one of the ways they are proving how corrupt they are by not giving proper masks and deducting from salaries. Now, what I want to know, will the minister tell the House whether nurses who lost their lives while attending to COVID-19 patients did not die because of these unsuitable and inferior masks they were given, because of corrupt officials who steal money that should be purchasing appropriate masks?
Honorable members, time has expired. Thank you. The Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson, and thank you for the for the report from the members who have visited hospitals. I wish when they do visit, they should give us a feedback like they are doing now, but they must also give support to our staff and management who are working under a very difficult situation. The issue of inferior masks and inferior PPEs has been raised with us, so we're going to investigate on the basis on a case-to-case situation. We have ensured that this must be followed up so that no one is exposed to the kind of situation that the honorable member is referring to. There are differences sometimes about what level of mask, what level of PPEs is needed, so some of the workers would require a particular level mask, when in fact, in terms of our protocols, they don't need to have that kind of mask. We have now said that the unions, a ministerial advisory committee must sit together so as to make sure that we clarify this issue. I'm completely unaware of any nurses from whom there has been a deduction of salaries because there's a need to buy PPEs. So I'm going to request that the member give us all the details, those nurses and those hospitals, so we can investigate at that level. Question of what happens to those who have lost their lives, we do want to convey our condolences to those who have lost their lives. But if there can be any criminal activity or action that is proven through a proper process, and of course that means that someone will have to be to face a criminal prosecution. It's a bit difficult to know when someone is infected what was the nature of the causation of the infection. So we would want to just make sure that we reduce the numbers of people who are infected. At this point, our number, both public and private, is around 31,000 who are infected, and we had lost about 240 of those. And we really do feel very sad that we have lost some members, or even the fact that some of them have been infected. We'll continue to commit ourselves to ensuring that all of them are protected.
Honorable Minister's time has expired. Thank you. Question number 398 has been asked by the Honorable Arma Shabela to the Minister of Basic Education. The Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much. Results in January, in which is a body that regulates admissions.
Honorable Minister, we cannot hear you.
Higher education institutions. And they indicated that
Honorable Minister, can you please switch off your video, your camera and start?
Yes, sir.
Please switch off your video and start. We did not hear anything. Please go ahead, Minister.
Say that, okay. No, thank you very much, Chair. Chair, the question really was about whether when we issue results at the end of February, won't students be at disadvantage? And the answer, Chair, is that on the 24th of August this year, our Director General, Mr. Mweli, met with the universities of South Africa which is a body that regulates admissions to higher education institutions. And they did indicate that universities will be extending the 2020 academic year to the end of February next year. So whilst the reopening of universities is not universal, but we are sure that when we issue results on the 23rd of February next year, we will not be disadvantaging learners, because universities, most of them will start their 2021 academic year in March, April next year. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. I've been informed that Honorable Mkhalip will take charge of the first supplementary question on behalf of Honorable Mashabela. I now recognize Honorable Mkhalip from the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Minister, I understand the question cuts across both the department and that of higher education, but I believe that while learners are in matric, they are your responsibility. You should take prime responsibility to ensure that the transition from basic to higher education is seamless. What measures have you taken to ensure that those matric learners in rural areas without access to online facilities are able to make their applications to institutions of higher learning, and that rural learners with no access of facilities for online education are not left behind and compromised in their preparations for the upcoming matric examination? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mkhalip. Honorable the Minister.
Yeah, Chair. Our learners won't be going to university for the first time in 2021. They always do, Chair. And the sector, especially higher education, had put in place a number of mechanisms. So it won't be a new year. They visit communities, they do all sorts of things, they take written applications. And yes, indeed, rural learners in rural areas would have less of an advantage as compared to those in urban areas. But they will use the same mechanisms which they've used. It's not the first time that we will be sent. Oh, so sorry, Chair, we have a load shedding, so it keeps on going. So I'm sorry about that. So as again, Chair, to repeat that it's not the first year. The same mechanisms they used this year, last year, and the year before will be used. There are visitations to communities, there are written applications, there are online applications. So indeed, it will continue that way. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary question goes to Honorable Shabalala.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, I just want to find out what arrangements have been made to enable matriculants to have a substantive period for them to apply for universities and NSFAS. As well as we all know that the calendar year has been disturbed by the pandemic that has erupted our lives in the country.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Chair, as I indicated earlier, we're working very close with higher education just to make sure that there's a seamless transition during this COVID year and even next year. So all our systems are getting together in terms of applications, in terms of even the application for bursaries. So our head of department and our head of department works together, including, as I said, the higher education body that really coordinates all higher education systems. So the long and short is, Chair, we are working together as DBE and higher education and also universities to ensure that there is a seamless transition, including bursaries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The third supplementary goes to Honorable Machesi.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Chair. Minister, given that a number of years ago, a student at UJ died during registration, and since then institutions of higher learning have discouraged walk-ins and the challenges related to NSFAS funding, which caused problems at the beginning of the academic year, it appears we are laying the ground for a crisis with the 21st of February, March matric results date release. Will the Minister not discuss with a colleague, the Minister of Higher Education and Training, together with USAF, the possibility of using grade 11 marks as a basis for granting places provisionally, and then ensure quality by requesting all higher institutions administer the national benchmark tests in January so that places can be confirmed in January and early February. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
No, Chair, that's what is going to happen exactly. Normally, universities use your September or your half-yearly marks to do placements.
Silver speaks descriptions of items on the screen.
But what they will do, this member Machesi, it's exactly what you're advising, that they will use grade 11 marks to screen learners and not the 2020 marks. Because there won't be meaningful June exams and also your trial test. So they'll use grade 11 marks.
Are you done?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
I'm done.
I must hear you landing. Thank you, Minister. The last,
Okay,
supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Ngobo through the virtual.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. My question is to the Minister. Has there been any discussion with higher education institutions on the criteria used for the selection or placement of students for 2021 academic year? Is there uniformity in this regard, or do universities have a discretion? Will the universities still use the benchmark tests in this regard, Minister?
Thank you, Honorable Ngobo. The Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister.
Answered Mr. Machesi exactly that question to say, okay, can you hear me, Sir? We have a low check.
Honorable Minister.
It's very unstable, Chair.
Honorable Minister, we can't hear you. You are not audible, Minister.
No.
You are not audible, Minister. Please reposition yourself. Thank you. Honorable Member, are you rising on a point of order? Thank you. You have the platform.
Chair, I just wanted to, I could hear the Minister say she's just answered that question, so the Honourable Member can just refer to a previous answer.
No, she didn't say that. Thank you.
She did say.
Thank you. That's the point of order. Honourable Minister, are you able to answer the question?
Yeah.
Honourable Members. Honourable Members, we seem to have a problem with the Minister. Can you proceed to the next question?
Yeah, I have a load shedding. We have a load shedding. That's what I said, Chair.
Okay, Honourable Minister, can you answer now? We can hear you.
Yeah. We can hear. You can hear me now, Chair.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, Chair, I'm saying I've just answered the question. The member from the DA was correct. Member Machesi.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much.
The same question and the
Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honourable Adons, you are recognized.
Yes, I was requesting that maybe you can bring back the DM to assist in responding.
No, that's not the point of order. Please sit, member. Honourable members, the Minister seems to have a problem. I will proceed to to the next minister who will be able to answer, and we can come back to that. Question number 385 was also the next question is that of the Minister of Basic Education. Question number 385 has been asked by Honorable C. Adams to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. 379 to the Minister of Health. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. The question asked by Honorable Singh relates to the guidelines from the Health Professions Council with regards to students who qualified in foreign countries and whether the guidelines, excuse me, that whether the department were consulted. The response, I was informed on the 14th of July, 2020, through a letter from Acting Registrar of the Health Professions Council of South Africa about the decision of the Medical and Dental Professions Board to create a pathway for South African citizens who hold qualifications not prescribed for registration. The policy guideline was which I will attach on the question has got a kind of annexures just to indicate which the categories were. The pathway, amongst others, intends to accommodate South African citizens who hold qualifications not prescribed for registrations and who do not meet all the minimum requirement for registration, especially a requirement for a certificate of good standing issued by a foreign registering authority where the applicant was registered. Consultation with between the HPCSA and the Department of Health and the Deans of Health Sciences on this matter dates back to 2018 when parents of South African citizens qualified for medical studies outside the borders of the Republic reached out to the minister regarding their exclusion of their children to practice medicine in accordance to the HPCSA regulations. The guideline to develop a pathway is in the same spirit with this policy guideline on the requirements for practice of medical professionals in South Africa, approved in June 25, 2018. In addition, it should be noted that these matters relate to education, training, registration requirements, which also falls within the ambit of the professional board, and the board is empowered in terms of Section 15(1)(b) of the Health Professions Act and regulations made in terms of the Act to develop policy guidelines on matters falling within their ambit. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The first supplementary goes to Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister. Minister, may I start off by saying this pathway, which I have a copy of, is certainly drawn up in bad faith, extremely bad faith, and it's totally unacceptable. The fact of the matter is, Minister, you say that you were informed on 14th of July. One would think that government and the Department of Health needs to play a more proactive role in this, because it's government's policy that dictates the health requirements in our country. We know we want to have a first-class health service. We know that there aren't enough medical institutions in our country to accommodate the very many learners who even get 7 distinctions that want to study medicine. And we also know that the government, at great cost to the taxpayer, is sending students from Nongoma and other areas to Cuba to study so that they can become doctors and come and make a contribution to our health requirements in the country. Now, some in the HPCSA wake up one morning and say, let's have a new pathway. Minister, we had proper guidelines which was accepted, and right where you sit, it was shown to me, we accepted it in the House. And now comes the HPCSA with this. There are students who are already in the pipeline. And now what is going to happen to them, because there are legitimate expectations of those students to do what they did in the past. So, Minister, firstly I say to you, there must be short, medium and long-term interventions here. The short term is there should be a moratorium placed on this pathway so that those learners who are currently studying abroad are not prejudiced. There are 24 medical students who've completed their degrees abroad, written their board exams. They are waiting internship in our country. Surely, while we praise those Cuban brigade that came here, we've got to build our own capacity. And my appeal to you, Honorable Minister, is the Department of Health has got to ensure that there are checks and balances when it comes to what the HPCSA is doing. In 2016, they were exposed to a whole inquiry, and some of those recommendations
Honourable
are still
members'
not yet
time
been
has
fulfilled.
expired.
We've got to look at how the
Honourable members'
HPCSA
time has
functions.
expired.
And I'm
Thank
appealing
you.
to you, Minister,
Thank you,
to set
Honourable
up a
Singh.
meeting with all interested
Honourable
parties so we can
Singh,
resolve
thank you.
this issue sooner rather than later.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Honourable
much,
Singh. Your
Chairperson.
time has expired. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. I do understand that the matter does become fairly sensitive to those students who have come back from the various institutions. Let me take the point that with the dissatisfaction around it, we still have to continue to engage HPCSA on the matter. But it should not be taken that the medical and dental boards don't have the authority over the matter. They do. It's supposed to be an independent judgment from a body which is a statutory body without any interference from any other person. And therefore, I think when we understand engagements, we need to understand we can't overrule them. We have to actually debate the issues and see whether we can make a sense, to the issues that are being raised by them. Secondly, there is a challenge because if you draw it to the simplest interpretation, we're actually saying that people who have come from various institutions from outside now need to go through a quality assurance process, which is a test that the board has to make available for them to go through so that it gives an indication that they've got the minimum knowledge necessary to practice safely as doctors in the country. Now, people go out of the country to go and train in various institutions that we have no relationship with, whose curriculum we have not examined, that we don't quite know what their situation is. So it does create a problem when they come back from different parts of the world. The standardization is not the same, where some of them spend 4 years, some of them don't get practical experiences, clinical exposure, and so on. So now the board has to try and make sense of all of that. This is why we have this kind of problem. So having said so, the latest suggestion they made was that there are those who, when they look at their curriculum, they might think that they would have gone through adequate theoretical knowledge, but they need additional training at a clinical level. We can't compare it with the Cuban situation because here we sent an entire delegation based on the bilateral relationship of the two countries. Then we had professors, we had deans of institutions who went through and checked the entire system in Cuba. Then they agreed on a way of how to integrate those students. And this is what we're following. It is not an arbitrary decision. It is not because some people don't like Cuba that then we can just...
Thank you, Minister. Your time has expired.
So on that basis, we will take the engagement forward.
Thank you. The second supplementary question goes to Honorable Sheikh.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, given the shortage of medical practitioners or GPs in the country, the lack of adequate training facilities in South Africa to train more doctors, and the fact that your NHI grant is being underspent year in and year out, where you are not recruiting medical practitioners in preparation for the launch of the NHI, is clearly an indication that we have a shortage of GPs. Coupled with that is the sad loss of many of them that lost their lives in the front line where they sought rest in peace. Why is your department not engaging with different countries in light of the fact that we do not have the capacity to train them locally, but we need these doctors to be able to deal with universities throughout the world in terms of having a common curriculum, how you can accommodate them so it makes it easier for foreign-trained doctors to practice in South Africa rather than those who have a passion to follow medicine, sitting at home and not being able to be afforded that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Well, thank you very much. Both Honorable Singh and Honorable Sheikh Imam, the issues that you are raising are a matter of concern. I can go back to the time I was MECs, this was a basic issue that we had to fight about. The fact that universities are on their own supposed to be autonomous, therefore they take the students on the basis of their own decision. So part of the issue arises from that. But in this case, there are many countries which have got an understanding and a bilateral reciprocity with South African system that can actually train people without them having to face additional exams in the country. And some of those are open if people are able to get to that level. There are those institutions as well where we have a concern about the quality as such. I think that it's a bigger problem. Was my answer, if you were to ask me the question, I think it's important to actually increase the training from the South African institutions. Now, to get the universities to that point, it's quite a bit of a discussion that we have to engage on. There is a need for us to increase the numbers of doctors, particularly as we are moving towards the NHI, and so we will have to continue to engage at that level. But it should not be because someone has gone to train in a particular country and we don't have any arrangements to accredit those qualifications, that then, of course, we can't follow the mechanism to try and level the playing field inside the country. So we have to continue to work on it on the basis that we do need more doctors. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The third supplementary goes to Honorable Geller. Honorable Geller of the African National Congress.
Oh, sorry, thank you, Chair. Minister, in terms of Regulation 4 of the regulations relating to the registration of persons who hold qualifications prescribed for registration, there are stringent measures to be followed for students to be accredited in the country, as the health is a very sensitive field that needs the correct skills match. How will the pathway recently developed by the HPCSA ensure that the quality and standard of health practitioners is not compromised? Does the accreditations of qualifications completed in countries outside of South Africa not reside with the Department of Higher Education and Training, and therefore the HPCSA is not bound by those accreditation criteria? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Indeed, Honorable Member is correct. On registration of any students who have qualified, there are stringent measures. These are really to make sure not only the quality, but the protection of all those who are going to be handled by that particular doctor when they are employed. So it's important that we must always make sure that there's a good quality of doctors, and the rules that you have referred to are about stringent measures to ensure that the quality is preserved. The recent proposal is supposed to assist students to be able to be taken through a South African institution. This is in the situation where, for example, someone can be trained and get the theoretical knowledge, but because the different countries have got the very different types of presentation of diseases and the conditions under which you're managing particular conditions, it becomes important to be acclimatized to the new country. So this is what would help so that you can bridge the gap of the difference between that country and South Africa. That's why it is important. But also the question of the relationship between universities in South Africa and the rest of the world is a matter that's between the Department of Higher Education that has to deal with that matter. So there has to be a collaboration with various other players, whereas the Health Professions Council of South Africa is about standards and the standards as well as the level of qualification. The two are not necessarily doing the same thing. So the HPCSA can't go and accredit a facility in a country and say we'll accept this. They have to deal with the student when they present themselves. So that's part of the dichotomy that is part of this issue. It's a way of assurance, quality assurance, but it does create its own challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The last supplementary question goes to Honorable Ismail.
Thank you. Minister, with the dire situation in South Africa, were to outsource medical assistance at great cost to the tune of 240 million rand for year-end contracts. And a lot of these Cuban doctors are generalists, not specialists. Whereas we have 300 plus doctors in South Africa that are waiting to write their board exams in order to start internships at our hospitals. These doctors are waiting and pleading to assist. Could it be that the South African government is prioritizing foreign doctors, therefore delaying the registration of these South African doctors? Minister, we need an undertaking from you. When will South African doctors be allowed to write their board exams, and when will this be resolved?
Thank you, Honorable Ismail. The Honorable Minister.
Well, we have to keep explaining the same thing. There is a difference between an unknown university whose syllabus is not known, whose method of training is not known, where a student just rocks up in South Africa and say, I'm qualified as a doctor, and the Health Professions Council has to decipher whether that person is safe to allow to train to treat patients in South Africa. It's very different to what's happening with Cuba, because in Cuba we sent deans, professors, heads of department, specialists, experts to go and to take a tour of Cuba. They came back. When they say that they are trained, they are people as specialists, their education system is a bit different. You would be qualified as a general family physicians based on the way that their training goes. So it is not a misnomer to call them specialists. It's just a different approach to what we're doing in South Africa. We are quite satisfied that their level of qualification is correct. But there wouldn't be any sense in South Africa prioritizing foreigners and not South Africans. But if the South Africans will go to any country and train without actually checking whether these particular qualifications are acceptable, then of course we've got to go through the process of screening. I think we need to understand that as a challenge. It's going to happen every now and again because the world has got so many institutions, most of which we don't have any specific relationship. I think we need to have an understanding that there has to be a strict criteria that South African boards use to make sure that South Africans are safe, and at the same time, we do need to have a continuous interaction so that those who come from abroad, they must go through tests, they must go through board exams, and when there are delays and there are inexplicable delays, then of course we're prepared to intervene and assist. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Can I now check if Honorable Minister Motshekga is now better positioned for us to go back to that question? Honorable Motshekga?
No, I'm back. I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. The next question is question number 382, asked by Honorable Bingo Gigaba. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. The question really is about the support that we are giving to the matriculants who are homeschooling. And Chair, I can confirm that indeed we are giving matriculants who are homeschooling support. There is support for self-directed lesson plans, which are accompanied by study guides and revisions. We also provide them with worksheets that enable them to revise. We give them recorded lessons. We also had launched a very good program last week, which we call WOZA Matric, which is recorded lessons, which are online and also on different stations. We use media. We help them also to form study groups. We provide additional printed material. There's online support. But we also find, as I said, different schools and different provinces go out of their way to assist them. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. The first supplementary goes to Honorable Bingo Gigaba. You are now
Bingo
recognized.
Gigaba, Chair. Thank you very much, Slalo Ndiabong. Honorable Minister, in your view, what would be the impact of homeschooling in terms of us seeing learners dropping out of school due to the fact that they can't cope because of the support that is not sufficient?
Thank you, Honorable Bingo Gigaba. The Honorable Minister.
So Chair, as I said, we try really different ways of supporting them. Some I think the member is right to suspect that sometimes it may not be adequate, but we've tried to do whatever we could and whatever is humanly possible. Some of the things that would help or could be done may not be doable in terms of there's no access to your ICT, there's no access to other support, but we've tried to provide assistance that will respond to different environments without necessarily assuming that homes or families will be able to assist them. Just to make sure that they can form study groups, they can get printed material, we could do as much outreach as possible. But what I can assure the member on, Chair, is that fortunately, most of the learners who come from your disadvantaged poor areas have returned to school in their numbers. We experience almost 98% of their return, so we're quite comfortable that those that need your face-to-face support have come to school and are getting that support.
Thank you, Minister. The next supplementary goes to Honorable Sukas.
House Chair, may I, there's a connectivity problem. May I put the question on behalf of the Honourable Sukas?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Arising from your response, Honourable Minister, it is indisputable that education is facing a crisis, and this has been further exposed by the pandemic, which has disproportionately impacted the Western Cape and Eastern Cape. And we understand that more than 1 in 4 matrics may have not returned to school in the Western Cape. What additional resources, Minister, in addition to what you've already referred to, are you able to allocate to support these matrics that are staying at home? They might have comorbidities, with particular reference to accessing online learning, where such learners from disadvantaged backgrounds may not have access to tablets, to laptops or smartphones to access online learning, or alternatively may not have sufficient data to access online learning. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister.
Chair, the member would also remember that in the Eastern Cape in particular, they went out of their way to procure a gadget for every matriculant, and also are providing them with, which was really great for the province to do. So we will not be able to lump in Western Cape, Eastern Cape in particular, to some of the challenges. In the Western Cape, our understanding, Chair, which is, as I said to Member Kigaba, learners who come from disadvantaged areas, I think are conscious of the limitations or the challenges that face them, have returned to school. The 1 in 5 will be your learners in your affluent communities that have access to gadgets. Learners who have not come back and reported problems with comorbidities are very few. And provinces have assured that there are very few learners who have not returned because of health challenges. They're able to assist them, and they're able to work with their families. Families come and collect work for them. They're able to communicate with them much more frequently and closely, because there are very few those who are home because of comorbidities. The majority of those in the Western Cape are exactly the ones who've got access to gadgets, who are using a hybrid system, that as teachers teach the other 80%, they're able to access that material simultaneously. So it is a major problem in those 2 provinces in particular.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. The third supplementary goes to Honourable Tembe Kwayo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, in the application form to exempt a learner with comorbidities from this compulsory learning thing, the parents and or guardians are given a very strict condition and the responsibilities associated with it. My question is, when I went through the form that is compiled by the Western Cape Province, they have made available a please call me line for the psychosocial support that can be needed, but it's restricted to the employees together with a toll-free number. Whereas with regard to our matriculants, the referral for the psychosocial support is mainly based from the feedback gathered from the school, which according to me can be lengthy for the educators to gather that information so that that particular matriculant can be referred for psychosocial
time has
support.
expired.
Why is it not possible for you to
has
make
expired.
a
Thank you, Honorable
police line
Tembepayo.
available
Honorable
for the
Tembepayo,
matriculant?
your time has expired.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chairperson.
The Honorable the Minister.
No, Chair, we can look at that. I'm sure colleagues won't be hostile. We'll be meeting next week. I can raise that with them. But as I said, Chair, there are very few learners who have reported their inability to return because of comorbidities. So it's not like very many. We find that in some schools it's 1 learner, 2 learners, and it should be manageable. But if a member, as member perhaps is suggesting that the please call me could make students' lives easier, I'm sure it's not a big issue because there are very few. And that can also be done, whereas perhaps if it's done for young people by a school, could be more, I think, quality, but I can raise it with the member. I don't think it's a big deal, and I don't think it's an issue. The point is that there are very few of them, so it should be very easy to manage whatever system gets used or is to be used. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. The fourth and the last supplementary on this question goes to Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Honorable Minister. The Freedom Front Plus acknowledges the fact that the Department of Basic Education has since the lockdown involved homeschooling as a partner in delivering education in South Africa. At present, the homeschool is regarded as a parent in a nuclear family only, presenting education to his or her own children. As soon as children from 2 or more households are educated, it is deemed to be an independent school and is required to register as such. Is the department willing to become more lenient in its definition in order to allow more than 1 nuclear family to cooperate in this way? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
I'm sure committees can make that request because homeschooling is self-regulated. I know they also form syndicates, they work together, there are even associations. And I'm sure if associations feel that they want to work as syndicates, that can be discussed. But as I say, it's actually, in itself, the homeschooling is an independent process where parents on their own decide that they want us to know as government that their child is at home, studying under the following conditions. We just monitor that. But it's managed by community, by parents, and it's self-managed also through the associations. And we work very close with the association. If indeed the association feels that they want to work as syndicates, it shouldn't be a problem. But we can't change and make laws for them before they've even requested, because we meet with them regularly and they can raise that with us.
Thank you, Minister. I take it you have landed. Honorable members.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, honorable members, before I step off and hand over to Honorable Ntombela, allow me to make a quick ruling. On 29 July 2020, during consideration of the votes and schedule to the Adjustment Appropriation Bill, the Chief Whip of the Opposition, Ms. Anne Mazzoni, rose in a point of order contending that Honorable K. Ceza has, in his interjection, referred to the chairperson as a donkey. Later in the same session, I questioned Mr. Ceza whether he had in fact referred to me as a donkey. He denied it and said that he had said donkey, meaning a high praiseworthy one, derived from Roman. I undertook to study Hansard and return to the House with a considered ruling. The audio clip of the proceedings, in fact, and in very clear terms, confirmed that Mr. Ceza had, in reference to the chairperson, made the following remarks. Is this how you announce yourself? In audible word, like a donkey. Nonetheless, I studied numerous dictionaries and other sources looking for the word donkey, as acclaimed by Honorable Ceza. I could not find any meaning that is anywhere near what Mr. Ceza claimed. If anything, some of the available definitions are even more unacceptable. Honorable members, Rule 84 clearly states that no member may use offensive, abusive, insulting, disrespectful, unbecoming, or unparliamentary words or language, nor offensive, unbecoming, or threatening gestures. Honorable members, it is a feature of the democratic parliament that comparisons to animals or the making of animal sounds are consistently ruled out of order as unparliamentary language. Honorable members, Mr. Ceza's remark is clearly unparliamentary and must be withdrawn. Order, members. Mr. Ceza, I order you to withdraw your remark. Honorable Ceza, I order you from the visual platform to withdraw your remark.
I'm here, Chairperson. Obviously, we are not reading from the same, but I withdraw.
Honorable Ceza, Honorable Ceza, I order you to withdraw.
Withdrawn, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chairperson, on a point of order.
I proceed.
On a point of order.
Thank you, Honorable. What's your point of order?
Sir, it is extremely unparliamentary when questioned by the chair to be untruthful in your reply. I would ask that you refer this matter to
I have not done. I'm not done yet.
Oh, you said you were done.
I'm continuing.
Apologize.
I'm
Thank
continuing. Please. Further to that, it is worth noting that having been given an opportunity to clarify what he had actually said on record, Mr. Ceza went on record again and chose to deliberately mislead the chairperson and the House by denying and making up stories and new words. In this regard, I must point out that Section 17 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act states that a member is guilty of contempt if he or she willfully furnishes a House or committees with information or makes a statement before which is false or misleading. In light of this, I have no option but to refer the matter to the Speaker to consider whether Mr. Ceza's conduct requires further action in terms of the Act. I so rule. Thank you.
On a point of order, Chair.
I now hand over to Honorable...
On a point of order, Chair.
What is the point?
On a point of order, Chair.
What is the point of order, Honorable Ntlangwini?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for your ruling, but what I want to also check with you, Chair, is the other outstanding rulings on the member that was in a vicinity where alcohol was present.
Thank you, Honorable.
How far are we with them as well?
Let me help you.
You can also have that,
yes,
please, with urgency. Thank you very much.
Let me assist you. Rulings are made by presiding officers who was presiding over that. I did not preside over that. Please wait for it.
Thank you, but they will follow up. Thank you. Thank you.
I now, as I hand over to Honorable Ntombela, the question number 385 has been asked by Honorable R.C. Adams to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. I now recognize the Minister as I hand over to Honorable Ntombela to take over. I thank you.
Thanks. Go well, Chair. Remember us as you go. Thank you. Thanks, Chair. Well, Honorable Member, Honorable Adam, the question you've asked, the guidelines, the roadmap guiding transformational change in sport is per the Charter, and here has 6 strategic areas focusing on. which are on and off the field. The first one is demographics. The second one is the skills development. The third one, performance. Fourth, governance, performance, and the economic empowerment. The transformation status is determined annually based on achievement on prescribed one-size-fits-all charter, which are targets. And secondly, the federations self-set targets, as it were. And amongst the multitude of factors impacting South African sport system, 3 are prominent. That is one, the school sport, which has challenges, and that's why we had the interaction and meeting with my colleague, Minister of Basic Education, on this. The changing national population demographics affecting human resource and the impact and consequences of poverty and inequality, deepening exclusion from equal sport participation opportunity, and so on. And that makes it difficult for those who can't pay to play. The 6 annual transformation audits to date have provided insight into symptoms of these factors on status, extent, and rate of transformation based on, as we said, the preset targets and the charter itself. It's okay. The reports, the reports have shown that table tennis, football, volleyball, cricket, amateur boxing, softball, netball, athletics, and basketball are progressing better and well on transformation, notwithstanding the fact that some of them are showing signs of regress, which we are on it in terms of our program. For rowing, bowls, jack skate, gymnastics, basketball, tennis, swimming, hockey, here we have a bigger challenge. What are we doing about this? We're still finalizing the APG report, and we think that there are things which need to be done to where we can assist, to nudge for transformation, but where we have to enforce mechanisms, we are going to do that, and we've indicated to federations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable R.C. Adams. Honourable Adams.
Thank you, House Chairperson.
Honourable Adams.
Honourable Ngabane is taking the question. Thank you, Honourable Minister, for your response. Minister, what are the persistent symptoms that are a hindrance for supporting codes attaining their preset charter and self-set barometer targets? And how can these be practical and progressively addressed? I thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member, with that question. It's the questions we are still asking. As I said, that out of 19 sporting codes we're dealing with, we have met 15. We still are going to meet 4. But their reasons vary. Some of them are not so convincing. And because of that, we have sent back the eminent persons group to further probe on them so that we will be clear on the kind of steps we need to take. As I said, some of them would be as a result of the not so functional school sports system. From that level, we'll see what we do with the basic education. But others are not convincing because these are self-set targets by the federations themselves. And when they are not able to fulfill their self-set targets, we want more than what some of them have said so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Dana.
Thank you.
Through visual platform.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, through you, House Chair,
with regards to transformation in sport and with regards to sports development, and Minister, you just mentioned the not-so-functional school sports system. What has the department done and what is the department going to do to ensure development of sporting skills from a young age, in especially rural schools, to ensure that young athletes' skills are stimulated and developed to a stage where merit and merit only can be used as a criteria for the selection of professional sport teams in all 19 sporting codes? I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Honourable Member, with your question. It's an important question because if we are to really realize development in sport, school sport becomes important. That system is very important as a feeder to the national federations and sport generally. So we are flagging that part because part of what we are going to be doing is to look at all the tools at our disposal, including the EPG and the outcomes which from time to time they share with us, to see how effective are all the tools at our disposal for transformation in sport. Because before we talk transformation, we emphasize the point of development, as it was happening in the past. The national teams, by and large, got the feeder from a very strong developmental pipeline. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Feba will take the third supplementary question.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, you know that the 2018-19 report by the Eminent Persons Group on transformation is obviously outdated. Minister, you had meetings yourself with most of the sport federations in the past few months. Surely you could see that these figures on transformation changed drastically since the time of this outdated report mentioned. The DA, as you know, is committed on transformation in sport, but this can only be achieved with political will on the part of government to develop sport at grassroots levels, where this government is presently dismally failing. Minister, the reality is that applying pressure on sport federations by you to enforce a racial quota system will not address the dysfunctionality that's currently in federations like Cricket South Africa. Except for threatening sport federations by enforcing racial quotas that can cause South Africa to be banned out of international competition, do you have a workable plan transforming sportmen and women on grassroots levels, like building infrastructure that's been maintained, and then providing quality coaches to those schools that don't have the best coaches to actually produce ultimate athletes for South Africa's sporting future?
Thank you, Honourable Feba. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, with your comment, which is very important to note. I think we are conflating matters. The grassroots is about development, not transformation. We want to see transformation at the end point where federations are in action. And the issue about the quota and transformation, you see, I must say this, Honourable Member, transformation is non-negotiable. That we must get very clear. Because it's not a political rhetoric, it's a constitutional question of inclusion, of the constitutional principles of non-racialism, of non-sexism. So those things would be followed through. Yes, you have raised the issue of school sport, which you are correct, but it's not only the factor. The willingness among some of the federations is one of the areas which we are looking at, and as I said, where we have to enforce, we will enforce, because it's not true that it's only one area which makes sport to be what it is today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. And the last supplementary question goes to the Honourable MGE, Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair. Honourable House Chair, sport federations have let the nation down and embarrassed us with this report. To the Minister, only about 15% of schools, mainly public schools, have sports teams. Provincial departments get funding and most schools send sportsmen for trials without having school sports teams. Will the Minister consider diverting this funding directly to schools and the funding be ring-fenced with norms and standards so that principals and educators take responsibility at schools to have one or more sports teams? This fund will amount to about 1,000 Rand per learner and add to the 8,000 Rand per year schools get to implement norms and standards for other delegated functions. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks, Honourable Member. We both agree with Minister Motshekga, Minister of Basic Education, that we need to sharpen this part, because we can talk and we can have wishes, plans, but if we are not strengthened on the part of development, we'll always have challenges. So we agreed, let's look, because you see, the thing is that whatever you have, you need to see its potency or not. And if what we are trying to do now will not assist the situation of development, we'll have to look at other things. But as we said, the commitment from the Minister and myself is unquestionable on this matter, because we want to see transformation and see it now happening. We have been talking about transformation since 1994. So I think it's time that we see us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Question number 427 has been asked by the Honourable Tarabella Machesi to the Minister of Basic Education. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. The question is in relation to the dropout rates, and I can say it is indeed a huge challenge or threat in the current environment we find ourselves of COVID-19. So what we've done with provinces first is to make sure that we record on a daily basis, as the law dictates, attendance, and keep those records very closely. And what we do then, what different provinces have been doing, have put up different measures to follow up on learners, to check whether they are at home because their parents have chosen not to return them, they'll come back next year, or they're at home and are using your ICT tools, or they're at home because they've dropped out. So we follow up on that. We phone parents. We sometimes give notices with classmates to really help us communicate with those parents. We work with different NGOs where we have a very strong, for instance, infrastructure with social workers and NGOs, is to get them to assist us to mobilize and encourage children to return. We also work with our QLTC team, which is also working on the back to school campaign. So, Chair, we use different methods because the member is right. This is one of the biggest threats facing us with a prolonged stay away from school, that learners will become very comfortable staying at home and choose not to return to school and choose not to return to school permanently. So we are monitoring that development. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Malachi will ask the second supplementary question. Is it the first supplementary question?
Yeah, I think it's myself, Honourable Tarabella.
It's yourself. Sorry about that. Okay, take it, madam.
Okay,
take the first supplementary question.
Minister, yesterday we learned from the department that Kenya will be implementing a policy which allows learners to be progressed to the next grade even to university without writing final year examination. And we are seeing such policies implemented in a number of countries because there is confidence in their education system by the institutions. And yet in South Africa, our tertiary institutions lack confidence in our education system because of our weak foundation phase and lack of trust in our internal assessment processes, subsequently deeming our education system substandard. And the only time your education in this country can be worth something is when you write the examination and obtain a matric certificate. Totally disregarding the fact that matric only constitutes 25% of your school years combined. Therefore, unfortunately, faced with this pandemic, our children will not be afforded such confidence by our tertiary institutions because of the issues that I mentioned. What are you going to do, Minister, to remedy this problem within our education system? And what steps will you take? And will you be able to provide us with timeframes, because we might find ourselves in the same situation next year? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Machesi. The Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. Member Machesi is a member of the committee. As a country, as South Africa, as a country which is also we're an independent country, we make our decisions, we've made our decisions, and she knows what the decision is. That Kenya has chosen a certain path, that's a Kenyan story. Our story is, we want our kids to go back, try and claw back as much as we can, and get them to be promoted. We have decided that there's not going to be pass one, pass all. They are going to be assessed on what we would have taught them, and next year we will make sure that the next grade takes, and she knows that we have actually trimmed our curriculum. The next grade will take some of the work that we have consciously and deliberately removed from this year because of not having time. So the long and short, we've made our decision. Kenya has made its decision. Let Kenya live with its decisions, and we live with our decisions. We've communicated with them. We've agreed as a country that this is the path that we are going to use. So if Kenya does this, we have to, we have decided as a country, including herself, that we communicated with them in the community, and there was no difficulty. Now suddenly, because Kenya is going right, then we have to follow right. No, that's not how we make decisions. Thank you
very much. Thank you very much, Madam Minister. The second supplementary question goes to Honorable Malachi.
Chairperson, Honorable Adjones will be taking the question from the House.
Okay, go ahead, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, as from last week, we received the report on the reopening of schools, even yesterday. The burning issue of some of the issues that were raised is the school dropout. Now, my question is, to what extent is the number of learners who have not returned to school because of fearing of the coronavirus pandemic? And also, what is the responsibility of parents on those bases? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. The member will remember that until the 24th of June, in our schools of learners who have returned, we had only 10% of them. It was only from the 24th of July that we had at least the other 90% coming back. And on Tuesday this week, or yesterday on the 1st of September, we had the last group coming out. So from the first group that came, we have given out the figures. For grade 12s, the numbers were quite high. We had the return of almost 98%. With grade 7s, it was around 80. And what we said to parents, because lots of parents were quite anxious about bringing back their learners, we said we will not remove them from the register, unlike when we have to remove them in 10 days' time. So we've changed the rules, we've changed the law to allow parents to keep their children as long as possible. So up to now, we have not done a full reconciliation between the 24th of July, 24th of August, and now as being the 2nd of August, to see how many will not have returned because they are not returning, they're dropping out. They've not been kept home by parents because of anxieties. They're not homeschooling or they have no comorbidities. I have said, member, that it is only, I think around September, end of September, where we will have a proper record with all the record keeping to say how many learners have we concretely lost. The figures that are moving around are just assumptions of what might happen. It's not the reality of what would have happened or what is happening. So we'll only be able to give you a true figure based on realities, at least after 2 weeks that they have been at school. But some have just been back, as I say, a day. Some have been back 2 weeks. So we really don't have a full figure or a full sense of how many would have dropped out. But what we are doing, as I said in the previous question, we are following up. We're trying all means with the QLTC to encourage those that would have already decided not to come back, who are not studying, who are not on any program, to return. So that's the view, Chair. We'll be able to get a full figure end of the month. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Esther Bekwayo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, the negative psychological impact on learners due to lockdown, specific reference to the loss of productive engagement in learning, increased stress, disrupted learning of their usual lifestyle, will be a causal factor of dropout rate due to the closure of schools this year. My question is, how easily accessible are your psychologists, guidance counselors, and or social workers to the learners specifically to address their fears and anxiety experienced? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, it's exactly what was our anxiety when we were really trying to push hard that schools must reopen sooner. We were quite aware that prolonged stay at school is going to create only learning gaps, but it is going to result in psychosocial challenges for learners. And indeed, when they return, parents were reporting that learners were very happy to be back. They were able to interact with their peers. So school, as I had said repeatedly, is good for children. And not going to school is not good for children. So what we've done, for instance, if member can watch some of our WOZA metric programs, and the program, these psychosocial programs that have been worked on or have been provided with the assistance of UNICEF are meant to address exactly that. So we will be providing psychosocial services through different ICT platforms. But again, as a member is saying, using our network, our associations with your NGOs that work with children, but also our own psychosocial teams to make sure that indeed we can support learners because of the anxieties that are brought about by coronavirus. Because it's not only how it impacts them as children, but also some of the effects of the virus on families it impacts on children, and therefore get children themselves carrying some of these psychosocial baggages. So the answer, Chair, we are quite conscious of the challenges about psychosocial services. We are putting in place response mechanisms, and fortunately we have partners like UNICEF which are assisting us to address that issue that has been brought about by a prolonged stay away from schools. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Nkobo.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. I just want to ask the question to the Minister. What is the department doing, if it has started doing anything, about the reports that about 6,000 educators have been deemed vulnerable due to age or comorbidities in KwaZulu-Natal? It appears that about 4,000 posts must be created at the cost of about 974 million rand in KwaZulu-Natal. What is the progress on this matter, if the minister knows? And what alternatives is the department considering, if any? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, Chair, with moving to level 2, we are now beginning to see quite a good number of teachers returning back to their posts, but we still do have a good number of them who are not able to return because of age. And we're looking at different mechanisms, because as they stay home, once they're still in our employ and being paid by the state, they have an obligation to do some services. So what different provinces have done was to recruit what they would call assistant teachers, so that even if you are at home, you are able to provide some services. You can prepare lessons, you can support the assistant teacher, you can do the marking, so that you don't stay home and are not able to assist the sector. So different provinces are looking at that, because Mr. Ngobo is quite correct. We don't have new money to deal with a new problem. And that's why we have to find innovative ways. So I don't have the specific answer to say in KZ, and this is what is happening. I can get that for the member. But what I have is just a generic view about how we're responding, that we've been advertising, recruiting qualified unemployed teachers to come into the system, working with assistant teachers, but also finding ways of using the very teachers who are still paid, state-paid employees, to be able to continue to contribute to the system. Because, as I said, we don't have fresh money to deal with that problem. So we have to use whatever we can to still do what needs to be done in the system. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. We now go to question number 395. Which has been asked by the Honourable J. Mishwe to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Honourable Mishwe. On his question, I'm not able to speak for the South African Rugby Union and have no plans to sanction players for failing to kneel at the match in question. I would be failing in my duty if I was not interested in why South African players at the match chose different ways to express solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. Black Lives Matter got revived recently because of the incident of painful squeezing life out of a Black American man, George Floyd, by the police officers of that country. Human solidarity action through kneeling was a sign the whole of humankind embarked upon in support of an unarmed man against the full might of the police force in the US. The interpretation of this solidarity action is that people identify themselves with the weak and the vulnerable in society. It is humanity's way of taking a stand globally against such pernicious ideologies as racism. The above demonstrate that these are matters of conscience and choice. Sanctioning such would be superficial, for it would not be dealing with a behavior without fundamental change of an attitude. It is up to SARU to deal with such act if they have such rules. I would not support such I would not, Honourable Chair, support such a move, since solidarity or pledging solidarity or support with a particular cause, as it is a voluntary act. I ask the view of SARU for their understanding of the action of 8 rugby players of not kneeling, based on my take and meaning and understanding of what solidarity means. It was a question based on my interaction with the 2019 Springbok team, who lived through the theme Stronger Together, which motivated them on unity and cohesion to clinch the World Cup. South African Rugby understood my question and responded by confirming that racism is not and will not be supported by the body. SARU has taken a stand under its leadership, motivated by the World Cup coach winner, Rasir Erasmus, to contribute in the program of social cohesion and nation building. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Meshuer will ask the first supplementary question. The Honorable Meshuer.
Person, my apology for the delay. Thank you, Minister, for your reply. I totally agree with you when it comes to the matter of importance regarding solidarity. But according to Section 2, subsection 15 of the Constitution, everyone has the right to freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, and opinion. Surely it is a violation of a constitutional right to compel or to be seen to compel an athlete to support any political and spiritual movement. The fact that the 8 rugby players were wearing jerseys written "Rugby Against Racism" was an attempt to send a clear message to the public that they did not support racism in rugby. What they disagreed with was to bow their knees to a deceptive, divisive, and intolerant movement that has attacked both churches and synagogues and all those who do not support a political movement that Melina Abdullah, who is a co-founder of #Black Lives Matter movement in LA, said.
The question, Honorable Mishra.
All right, my question, Honorable Minister, is whether you would agree that nobody has the right to force anybody to work and act against their own conscience, because for them they knew that this is not just a solidarity matter, but it is a spiritual movement that was imposed on the world.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Honorable Mishwe. I'm sorry to have disorganized you, because what you are talking about is what I'm saying. And if you gave yourself time to listen to what I'm saying, you would have said to me, Amen. Thank you.
Chairperson, on a point of order, I do believe that the Honourable Meshwe did agree with the Minister to a certain degree, and the Minister should have listened to the Honourable Meshwe's response. Then he would have heard that he did agree with him.
Honourable Swag. That's not a point of order, Honourable Swag.
On a point of order, Chair. On a point of order, Chair. Honourable Chair, if the Honourable Swart can just speak when he wants to, then he also needs to be removed. Because
I have just cautioned him on that.
Yes, we are very strict on EFF, but when it comes to Swart, we are very soft. So please stick to the rules of government. Otherwise,
to demonstrate my strictness is to mute the Honourable Mukalipi when she does the same mistake. Shall we continue, Honourable Member?
You even smile when Swart is speaking. I don't know what's your problem.
I wish I noted that member, he also has got a yellow card. I will mute you the next time you do that. Honourable Chule.
No, I just muted.
Honourable Chule will take the second supplementary question.
Honourable Chairperson, it seems that he's having a network connection. May I take that question on his behalf?
We are welcome, Honourable Singh.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister, the Springboks' motto in the World Cup was "Stronger Together," a mantra that brought South Africans from all walks of life in a social contract that sought to transcend racism and breathe life into the constitutional value of non-racialism. The players in question wore the hashtag BLM t-shirt, signifying a recognition that they are more than just sportsmen, but are also people who owe a social responsibility to those they represent and inspire. My question, Honourable Minister, is, in the light of the above and the historical and recent racial tension in the sporting worlds of rugby and cricket, does the Minister have a plan for some sort of sensitivity training or social awareness program through the department to build not only excellent athletes, but socially aware public sporting representatives? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you. Thanks, Honourable Chair and Honourable Singh. I totally agree with you.
Chip. No, but you can answer me.
Honourable Minister Motshekga, could you please mute your mic?
I totally agree with the Honourable Member. The Stronger Together theme of Springbok, Amapogopogo, last year, having stayed with the team for some time, they committed themselves to that. And they were very much conscious that they are not playing for themselves, but they are playing for the country. And they knew that this country needed that win more than any country in the world to ensure that we deepen social cohesion. We do not have specific programs, Honourable Member, maybe it's something which need to be looked into, specific programs to conscientize athletes to their patriotism. But we believe, as we do even now, that we'll continue making a call to all, athletes and all, that it is our responsibility to ensure that ours is a socially coherent nation, which has objective to unite all across color line, across creed, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Tanner.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, through you, House Chair, and I'm glad that the Minister mentioned that the objective is for us to be a socially coherent nation. And therefore my question is, Minister, do you not think that the quota system promoted by yourself and the department creates and promotes animosity and racism, as black players are viewed as mere quotas and are thus effectively told by your government that they are not good enough and do not deserve their places in the teams that they are chosen into on merit, but is rather chosen as a quota, although this may not be the case in many cases? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You'll be surprised, Honourable Member, that the very people you are referring to as quota, some of them are more qualified and more capable than those who are said to be there on merit. No, you must listen now. Than those who are saying they are on merit. In the past few weeks, I've been listening to stories of dreams of young athletes shattered by systemic racism practiced within the sporting fraternity. And what do you do in a situation where people are on the race together, but one is at that door already, but the destination is the same? So what you have been taught and understood to be the rechtstellende actie, addressing the question of the poor urban Afrikaner in early 1900s, that rechtstellende actie, we call it affirmative action. It's the same thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Madlengozi.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Minister, the resolution of the racist problem in sports does not lie enforcing whites in power to bow knees and declare fake allegiances to the fact that our lives matter. We know for a fact that those white people in rugby
Point
and
of
cricket
order,
mainly,
Chair.
and in many
Point
of
of order,
the
Chair.
states that are racist
Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair.
House Chair.
The point of order.
There's a point of order
Yes,
in the chamber.
What is the point of order?
In the chamber.
Point of order, Chair. Isinxibo somnqwazi endlini kuhleli iParliamente by Honorable Mahlingozi is unparliamentary.
Okay, umnqwazi tata. Thank you very much. Thank you. Go ahead. Order, please. Order, please. Give Honorable Mahlingozi his chance to complete. Honorable Mahlingozi.
Aligned to the way the police treat black people during protest marches. We have seen today the police brutally beating and attacking a peaceful march by artists that have, this is because of they are black. It is true that the majority of black artists are suffering because of this mismanaged lockdown. Hence, they are calling for reopening of everything, which itself is not helping dealing with the COVID-19 because we cannot behave like COVID-19 is gone. Is there anything tangible you can show at the ruling party that you did in the last 20 years to and nurture black talent in cricket and rugby? Are you being apartheid and racism apologists by allowing the status quo to remain in sports, arts, and culture after so long? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mahlingozi. Honorable Minister.
In life generally, there's nothing as easy as sloganeering. Just to stand up and slogan. I don't know what your question is, Honorable Member. In fact, we have said here that we are dealing practically and intimately with the issue of transformation in this country. And that we are continuing with it because from time to time, we come up with different mechanisms to address the very fundamental question. We are committed to this constitution. We are going to ensure that its spirit and letter reigns in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
House Chair.
Question number.
But we have not answered
House Chair, on a point of order, please.
Honorable House Chair.
House Chair, point of order.
There's a point of order in the chamber by Honorable Swart.
Yes, what's the point of order?
Thank you, House Chair, that you've recognized me this time. Seeing as I'm under a yellow card at the moment, I just wanted to check with you when the Reverend Meshwe asked his follow-up question. I understand from him that he only spoke for 1 minute when he should have had 2 minutes. Won't you just check that for consistency's sake as the first follow-up to an original question as 2 minutes as opposed to the 1 minute for others? Thank you so much, House Chair.
I'll check that. Thank you very much, Honourable Member. We now go to question number 386, which has been asked by the Honourable Mvana to the Minister of Social Development. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Firstly, I would like to indicate that the lessons that have been learned generally from COVID-19 are lessons that will help us to shape the future in as far as our service delivery is concerned. Secondly, Chairperson, I also want to indicate the fact that the impact of COVID-19 but was not only on the sector, it was also on government and the department, to that extent, Chairperson, that we lost quite a number of members of SASA as well as my department. And at this point in time, if you can enable me, Chairperson, to indicate to the House that we lost one of our best, the DDG Koni Ngumalo, who we laid to rest last weekend. One who was very well known, Chairperson, not only by South Africa, but the world overall. We wish to thank her family for giving us the opportunity to give her a good farewell. And I do hope, Chairperson, that the rest of her colleagues, as well as everyone in each and every office where we are, they will have to do their best to make sure that they stick to the protocols of COVID-19, because this is how she passed on, but also other members, particularly of SASSA, and in particular in the Eastern Cape, we've lost more than 20 members. This, Chairperson, says to me, the impact and effect of COVID-19 did not only disorganize the sector, but it also affected civil servants who do their best, who wake up every day in the morning, sometimes being insulted for things that they really don't deserve to be insulted for, but they wake up and they go and do their work. Chairperson, particularly because we are talking about, the question is with regard to the disbursement of special COVID-19 social relief of distress grant. This has certainly exposed the need for effective administrative data sharing and for integrated information systems that will establish linkages not only in the sector but also across all spheres of government. May I also, Chairperson, at this point in time, indicate that the report of the Auditor General clearly indicated to us that our systems need to speak to each other so that we do not have people that rob government of money, where you find that many people who were supposed not to have applied for the social grant, they did apply, and our system was forced to check with other government institutions as to whether the people that we have deserve to be given that money or not. So that is a lesson. And may I also, Chairperson, say, since the introduction of the grant, SASSA has received and processed in excess 8.8 million applications. Of these, more than 5.5 million have been approved and paid. The major challenges have been in identifying, implementing payment channels to be able to cope with the numbers of citizens on a monthly basis. I do also want to indicate, Chairperson, that working together with the Post Office, working together with other institutions, we were able to process the applications. And I must say, of course, there are those that are still missing in the link, those that have not been paid. And those that have not been paid, we're doing everything we can, Chairperson, to make sure that they are paid, because we do understand the challenges that are faced by our people. The challenge faced both with the application and disbursement processes have afforded the portfolio an opportunity to re-evaluate the manner in which we do business. We have learned that electronic application and disbursement channels can be implemented with proper controls to detect and prevent leakages. What is very interesting, Chairperson, is to indicate that with all the 8 million applicants who applied, none of them had to walk into any office. All of them had to do it electronically. And sometimes, Chairperson, I do want to say to the House that sometimes we undermine the capacity and the capability of our people to appreciate and understand technology. This, I can assure you, people even in the deepest rural areas were able to use their cell phones, were able to talk to each other and get assistance so that they could be able to apply. I've always indicated that any investment as a response to the pandemic should result in long-term sustainable improvements to the work of government. The efforts put into building an in-house solution to the receipt, validation and payment of special COVID-19 SRC grant is an investment into building the capacity of the state and will serve as a going forward. As a direct consequence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And I'll call the first supplementary question that will be asked by the Honorable MG Mvana, but immediately hand over to the Honorable Flori. Honorable
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, based on how these challenges and lessons that have been shaped by the operations of the department, how will the evidence-based research be used to improve that going forward, the lessons that have been learned during this COVID-19 pandemic will not only the service provided by the department, but also the impact.
Honourable members, there are two members who have their cell phones on. Honourable Wana, will you switch off your microphone, please?
Thank you.
Continue, Honourable Wana.
Very much.
Honourable Wana, you may continue.
Yes, I was just asking, Chair, from the Minister, how will evidence-based research be used to improve that going forward? The lesson that have learned during the COVID-19 pandemic, not only for the services provided, but by the department, but also the impact that it is making on the lives of South Africans. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mvana. I think in response already to the question, I did indicate, for instance, the fact that we were able to register and the fact that we were able to process and the fact that ordinary people in each and every corner where they were able to apply using the systems that we had already put in place are lessons for the future. And as you rightfully say, Honourable Member, research must be the backbone of how we develop systems, or firstly policy, how we develop our plans for implementation, but research, as I recall, particularly Minister Naledi Pandor, most of the time and all the time, she keeps on repeating it over and over again for us to say that it's important for us to use research in order for us to develop very impactful processes of implementation. And I think that the lessons that we have learned here as the department, but also as a portfolio, is not only for the Department of Social Development, the SASSA and NDA, but it is also for the provinces, it is also for the local structures. And one of the things that we agreed we have to focus on in particular is to make sure that the district development model, which has also shown that if we plan and focus on supporting local structures in particular, would have a greater impact in delivering to our people. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next supplementary question goes to the Honourable Abrams.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, a sector this department has failed to address and allocate COVID relief is the ECD sector. Repurpose funds from ECD infrastructure for PPE is not relief. 1.3 billion for ECD compliance monitors is not relief. Furthermore, Minister, yourself and all 8 ANC MECs are due to appear in court on the 7th of October on the issues of non-payment of subsidies. This, Minister, will be your 3rd court appearance as you continue to fail to uphold the Constitution and the Children's Act. Your department missed the court's deadline to respond to the application of SA Childcare and others last week. Therefore, you, the department, the ANC MECs, are the reason why ECDs and NGOs have to go yet another full month without full subsidies. No subsidies means no food for hungry children. Minister, why do you and this anti-poor ANC government continue to fail the children of South Africa, and will you approach the courts to bring this urgent matter forward? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I have to make it fact that none of us ever thought we would find ourselves where we are today with regard to the impact of COVID-19. None of us thought that we would have to develop regulations, develop directives that would guide us in terms of what needs to be done in support of our people. Chairperson, this government of the African National Congress never had, never will have an intention of undermining the challenges that are faced by our people. Chairperson, this government of the African National Congress has been, through its government and through the Department of Social Development, has been engaging the sector. And may I bow at this point in time, particularly because the person that I spoke about who left us, DDG Koni Ngumalo, was at the forefront of engaging the sector. But also, Chairperson, anything that stands and is in court, definitely we will present ourselves, because we have always said we've got respect for the legal processes, and that's why, Honorable Abrams, I must say to you, even yesterday, we were preparing to present ourselves to court, and we are not afraid of presenting ourselves to court because we know that we'll be able to respond adequately. But also, I don't think it would be correct for me to stand here and be doing the division that you are doing. You're talking about ANC MECs. You are talking about the MEC of the Western Cape. Let me tell you, from where I am as a Minister of Social Development, when I have those min-max and we have the engagements about what to do, how to do it, I don't make that separation. And therefore, even in this point in time, I don't want to stand here and grandstand and say the Western Cape has done better than others. I just want to say there is something that attacked us, and all of us, in the best way that we can, we have responded to it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Through you to the Minister. Minister, we have consistently raised with you in the Portfolio Committee that there's a general outcry from the public that they are being rejected from this 350 Rand grant for no sensible reasons. For example, the young man on parole who was rejected because your systems told him that he had been employed for the past 18 months, yet he sat in jail. There are too many examples to cite in my few minutes. Today, the AG confirmed that SASSA used old government systems and databases to pay out the 350 Rand grant, and therefore SASSA might have paid millions of people who are not in distress and excluded millions who were eligible for this grant. Also, there are at least 30,000 dodgy payments, some of these payments going to people who work for government. My question, therefore, will you be asking the CEO of SASSA to step down considering these massive failures? If not, who will be held responsible? And can the Minister explain why an old system was used to evaluate applicants for this special grant, and what assistance will now be offered to those who've been rejected, seeing as it is now clear that millions were rejected erroneously? Thank you, Chairperson.
Honourable members, may I just remind you that a follow-up question only consists of one question and not multiple questions. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks for that protection. I have, at this moment, no intention whatsoever of asking the CEO to step aside. Instead, I feel that what the CEO, together with SASSA, as well as the department did, and by the way, Honourable Member, let us go back to what we were being attacked for delaying in the payment, when we kept on saying, one of the reasons why we are unable to pay willy-nilly, we are unable to pay without due process, was we were trying to avoid exactly the same thing that was raised by the Auditor General, which you are speaking to. And we wish to thank President Cyril Ramaphosa, by the way, for ensuring that the Auditor General does not wait until the end of our implementation and give us an opportunity to look for the weaknesses in the system. Also, Chairperson, may I remind the member that we have consistently given reports to the Portfolio Committee, and I practically have not missed and have no intention of missing the Portfolio Committee meetings, because that is where we are able to explain some of the issues that Honorable Member van der Merwe is raising today. Yes, I was the minister who went in public and said, it is very annoying actually to find that there are people who are working for government who know that they are receiving something, who are applying for the 350, and they shouldn't have applied for the 350. But I must say, Chairperson, when you look at 8 million applications and 5 million people that have been approved and been paid, you can see that there is a very small margin of people that were able to penetrate into the system and get the 350. And may I also remind this House that the first time when we were paying, there was a glitch, and the glitch was based on the fact that we were doing everything we could to make sure that we don't have people who are sneaking into the system and getting that money. The message to those people is that we will do everything we can to get that money back, and those who were paid double the previous time. May I thank the citizens who realized that they were being paid twice, and they didn't have to get me or the CEO to ask them to give the money back. They automatically gave back the money, but on top of it all, when they got to the post office, they were the ones who were saying, I'm not supposed to get twice the amount of money. Thank you to those.
Now expired. Thank you. The next follow-up question will go to the Honourable.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, thank you for your answer and for making specific mention of the AG findings. My fear is, however, that in the opinion, there were a lot of system failures. But systems are run by people, and people are not perfect. With regard to the food parcels, it was found by the AG that they were wrong beneficiaries. They were double dipping, and there were irregularities with the food parcels and the distribution thereof. Will thorough investigations be done, and will officials be held accountable and face consequences for failing the poor and the vulnerable? Because, Minister, someone needs to be held accountable. And if not the CEO of SASSA, then it has to be you. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Cha kodwa ke ngiyaxolisa ukuthi wena usuze ungitshela ukuthi mina mangixoshwe ukuyekhohlwa angiyingapho. Maybe ungabhala incwadi ubhalele upresident umxaxisele lento oyikhulumayo. Mina ngiyindawo mina. I do agree with the honourable member that systems are run by people and people must be held accountable. I have absolutely no qualms in having anyone who's been found to have done wrong in the system. But let me tell you, one of the things that I know, that this Lindiwe Zulu hasn't done anything wrong in that space. This Lindiwe Zulu doesn't sleep like all the other ministers. We don't sleep. We work day in and out. We sit endlessly in meetings because we are committed in one thing and one thing only, serving the people of South Africa.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, we will now move to the next question. Question number 377 has been asked by the Honourable Sheikh Imam to the Minister of Health. The Honourable Minister.
Hello.
I'm recognizing the Honourable Minister of Health.
Hello. No, say Julius.
Prince Buthelezi, will you please switch off your microphone so that we can hear the Honourable Minister of Health?
Maybe this House should, in a post-dated manner, just wish His Excellency happy birthday. Prince Buthelezi. we didn't have the session on at that time. Thank you very much, Chairperson. The question from Honorable Sheikh Imam is about the restrictions from level 3 to level 2 and the numbers that they have noticed, which were higher in other provinces, as opposed to the reports that they had. The response is as follows. The easing of restrictions from alert level 3 to level 2 started on the 18th of August 2020. The opening of the economy and the move to alert level 2 was informed by the declining number of COVID-19 infections and the reducing number of cases requiring hospitalization. Over a period of 3 weeks, starting on the 23rd of July, the number of COVID-19 infection was progressively declining on a daily basis from 13,104 to a daily number of new cases of 3,946 on the 13th of August 2020 nationally. The case fatality rate remained low with a moving average of 2.2% over the same period, whilst the global average over the same period was about 3.8%. Over the same period, fewer people were presenting with symptoms requiring admissions in our health facilities. The number of patients hospitalized in both public and private sector decreased from 11,611 cases on 23rd of July to 9,540 cases on the 13th of August 2020. Daily recovery rate increased from 58% to 76% nationally over the same period of time, reducing the pressure on our health facilities. The only challenge that happens is that some of the daily numbers fluctuate up and down, and sometimes they appear as though the numbers are going up when in fact the trend is what we look at. It's not the day-to-day numbers. So the trend satisfied us that the numbers are going down. As we speak now, we can say South Africa has the surge behind us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I will now recognize the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, there is about 38,000, I think, excess deaths and increasing not accounted for. We are sitting at 14,500 fatalities. Your positive cases that are being identified could also be as a result of less testing that's taking place. You have simultaneously gone out there and allowed the sale of alcohol, and we know the effects that have on the hospitals. Now, you know, and I can tell you personally, when these decisions were taken, I tried to get a patient in at Krugerskir. The hospital was full. If I looked at the state of the Edendale Hospital in Pietermaritzburg, it was shocking at that stage. It has improved since then anyhow. We are still experiencing winter and it's very cold. Do you think this decision was not premature? As much as I accept that, yes, indeed, the economy needs to open up, given the fact that many countries worldwide are getting a second wave right now, and which could now increase the numbers considerably.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Very, very interesting issues that is raising. The first issue around excess deaths. Yes, indeed, we have been tracking this since the onset of COVID-19. Our indications are that the excess deaths are indicating that there may well be deaths that may not be recorded from COVID, and others may be not related to COVID that are happening at the same time. But our estimation is that the numbers are not far out of what the world average is showing. And so we do believe that our numbers fairly reflect the numbers of fatalities that we're experiencing. The less testing is based on the criteria that we've put up. Numbers of people who are coming for investigations in the hospitals because of symptoms were the ones that gave us the large number of people when we're testing up to 46,000 in a day. Now those numbers decreased, that's why the numbers of tests decreased. We are now going to review the testing criteria and try and increase the numbers again, but that on its own has shown us that the proportional reduction in the positivity rate of cases has actually declined from 27 to about 14%. So it does say to us, doesn't matter what the numbers are doing, our proportion of positives is decreased. The issue of alcohol, we actually, excuse me, with alcohol, we have got evidence that it does increase the load in the hospitals, particularly casualty in theaters and ICUs. We did actually suspend the sale of alcohol. When we started seeing the numbers declining, we thought it was possible to reduce the numbers. And therefore, with the winter on at this point, we've actually been seeing less of common colds and flus, I think because of the masks that we're using and the sanitizers. So all in all, we don't believe that the decision is premature. We think it's the right time to actually open up. The numbers have decreased quite significantly, even though we have to watch out for a second wave. Our surveillance and monitoring must help us to ensure that people don't remain, must not be complacent, but nevertheless, the decision was still correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question will be the Honourable Wilson. The Honourable Wilson.
Thank you, Chairperson from the House. Minister, you used details and evidence to open up the economy as well as close it. The earliest predictions of potential deaths and COVID cases based on that evidence are very different to those that we see today. South Africa had the longest and most stringent lockdowns just about in the world. Prior applications by News 24 for access to your data or evidence, which was used, was denied. Exactly what evidence or data was used by yourself, the MAC and the NCC to close the economy and destroy it, and why will you not release this evidence?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Wilson. The evidence that you're talking about, we need to talk a little bit about. Firstly, the access to data that you're referring to. I think we must always separate and not just read it and accept it simply because it comes from a newspaper. The information has been released. The people that they asked, the information they asked for was around the models and the focus numbers. That was released. We did that in an open day. And the fact that some of the people might want to play onto the side of political party thinking is not so much something we can help. We have also opened up some of the advisories, not necessary, but we just did it so that people could stop thinking that there may be something that is hidden here. It's not necessary that we could have done that, but when people are asking and the members of the Ministerial Advisory Committee thought it can be made open, we didn't have a problem with it. So there's no information that you don't have that has actually been the basis of the decision. The lockdown we took was based on what we call the epidemiological analysis. At that time, there was no model. We looked at the doubling time, which was 2 days at the time, and we can guarantee you today, that time, if we didn't do the lockdown, South Africa would have been worse than what it is today. People must understand that because that is a decision. When we took that decision, it was the best that we could have done. It's helped us to change quite a bit. The issue of the risk-adjusted easing of the lockdown was very, very important. If you had to look at what's happening now, when we move from level 5 to level 4, we said, look, let's take it easy. But when we move from level 4 to level 3, the numbers moved from about 30,000, 40,000 and shot up to about 400, 500, 600,000, which is what the numbers were today. It was clear. The reason for it is because people have started mixing, people have started moving, and there were lots of clusters, outbreaks, exactly the same problem that we've seen here in the Western Cape was now beginning to manifest in other countries, whereas in other part of the province, in other part of the country, whereas in the Western Cape, we actually started the outbreaks much earlier, even during the lockdown. The reality is we have done our best in this situation, and I think that we must stop politicizing the matter. In this case, yes, there is a challenge with the economy. We need to work together to rebuild the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Swart.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, may I firstly thank you and the other ministers for being in the House today. It is much appreciated. We need to return as Parliament. Thank you so much. Minister, of course, there are diverse views on the lockdown and the implications, and we all supported the initial lockdown, understanding the need for it. But clearly, with the ongoing issues, there have been a number of issues arising, the impact on the economy, and we appreciate this has been a difficult decision. However, it is very important to balance lives with livelihoods. Minister, I'd like to ask you about the number of people that are suffering from other diseases and whether, in your opinion, they are able to access. There were concerns expressed during the hard lockdown that the number of people with HIV/AIDS, with TB, were not able to access facilities due to them being reserved for COVID-19, as well as medication, and those that did have medication were not able to take it due to lack of food. And is that a concern, and was that a reason also for lifting the lockdown to allow those persons greater access to the facilities? And lastly, Minister, I'm struggling a bit with the concept of the people that are dying COVID-related, or are they dying with the earlier comorbidities, HIV/AIDS, TB? Is it definitive? Are we able to ascertain that? Or not? Thank you.
Quiet, Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Swart. Well, thank you for welcoming us back to the House. We will always be here whenever necessary. Indeed, there are diverse views, and we are out there open for a debate, and so we will look at the views. We are guided by sound scientific basis for the decisions we take. Now, the issue of balancing lives and livelihood is a very, very important issue, because it's not only the issue of someone getting to be saved from infection with COVID, it's also for them not to be dying of hunger, of starvation, of other diseases. In this case, when we were to open up the lockdown, it was based on the fact that we knew that there's a limit to how far a hard lockdown level 5 was going to be able to carry the country. It wasn't going to push the apex, the surge much later, so we needed to open up at that point. But we had to do a risk-adjusted approach so that we can allow the communities to adjust and various sectors to adjust, and I'm quite happy that we did that quite well. There were people who started getting lost to follow up on the normal treatment, for example, the issues of TB, HIV, immunization, and so on. In the lockdown, the first 3 weeks did affect that. As soon as we noticed that, we went all out to encourage people. Part of the reason was that at that point we had actually asked people to be removed from hospital, to decant the hospital, because we didn't know how much the surge was going to be. When we realized that we have been able to push it back, we then encouraged essential services to be reopened, especially at level 3. We made a huge announcement. At this point, we have recovered on most of those immunization, on TB, and so on. We have to keep moving at that level, because our concern was you couldn't actually get people to die of TB and diabetes and so on when there is treatment available. So that is the issue. The question of COVID-related deaths, just to say quickly, there are various definitions that are put as part of this. We record every day anyone who, when they died, they were positive with COVID, and we say it's a COVID-related. Even if COVID is not the main cause, those that are caused by COVID are those who will have either cardiopulmonary symptoms where the complications takes them to a point of distress where they are not recovering. Then we know that they didn't have that problem. And in some instances, the comorbidity is the cause of death, but because of COVID, it accelerated the demise as a result of that. So people with cancer at stage 4 was okay, stable, but then because of COVID, then it gets pushed. If they get pushed over, that becomes an issue. In some cases, COVID is an unrelated, it's a related but not the cause of any problem. So someone dies of, like a child who was a baby who died of prematurity, that would happen on anyone who's 32 years of gestation. But at this point, they was found to be positive, and therefore we recorded, even though the child could have died, even if they had not had COVID. So you might find someone who might have an accident and therefore get injured. In the process, when they die of hemorrhage, then because they were testing positive, we'll include them just to make sure that there's no sense of undercounting. When they do the analysis, they can separate that out. But the issue for us, we tried as far as possible to keep the correct definition of death related to COVID so that we don't undercount so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The follow-up question is to be asked by
Thank you, House Chair. I'm happy the Minister is able to admit that level 5 in the very beginning saved South Africa from a disaster. Now, taking consideration of that, and also taking consideration of the excess debts that the department has still yet to account for during a global pandemic, the decision to then move to level 2, if the Minister can give us numbers, since he's very good with numbers, what was the trade in terms of lives of people who are going to die due to the opening of the economy? How many lives are we expecting to lose due to the opening up of the economy? Get numbers so we have a clear picture of how many lives it has cost us as a country, or it will cost us as a country, to open up an economy that Black people are particularly excluded from, and also keeping alive at the same time. Just the numbers and the stats for that, since the Minister is very good with giving us numbers.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I'm not sure if the Minister has all those numbers and figures available with him now, but let me allow the Honourable Minister to respond.
On a point of order, Chair.
What is the point of order?
But you can't do that, Honourable Frolic. Please, you can't do and anticipate maybe the Minister stuff, because he has been giving us numbers throughout. Maybe perhaps he has the numbers on hand. Please don't do that.
Listen to the Minister of Health now, the Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I also believe it's important to say I don't need to be taught how to answer the question. The issue of the Department of Health, all the numbers that relate to excess deaths have been reported, and there's nothing else to account for. The excess death as a concept is an international phenomenon, so there's nothing new in South Africa that has to be explained differently to what has happened in the rest of the world. Secondly, the opening of the trade and the economy, I think we need to remember that what we wanted to save our people from is that they should not have problem of food security, problem of income security, unemployment, and so on. Now, it is the majority of the Black people who lose the jobs because of the economy that is closed. It's the majority who have got a challenge of having to have access to income because of that economy. So when we opened the economy, it was not so much about the big business. It was about the fact that the Black people here are actually the backbone. They are the ones who work the economy, but they also depend on that economy. And the government can offer so much of packages for unemployed.
How many deaths? How many deaths was the trade for opening the economy?
There are no such numbers. There are no such numbers.
Question, Minister reply.
I think the member must stop imagining a lot of things here. There are no such numbers. The numbers we have are the numbers that we have counted on the basis of the tests that have been done. But to imagine, because that the economy has opened, so many people would have died as a result. No one has ever done such a research, and it's not possible to do such a research.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Members, we will now proceed to question number 391 that was asked by the Honourable Mvana to the Honourable Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation. I now recognize the Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank Honourable Mvana for this timely question. Honourable Member, allow me to give a prelude to this answer by indicating the context of the responsibilities of water between the National Department and local government. In terms of the Constitution, the Department of Water is responsible for ensuring water security for the whole country. The department is further required to ensure that water as a resource is allocated equitably, a very difficult thing to do if you consider how much water has been previously allocated to the previously privileged and how much water remains for those who have been underprivileged all along. And that constitutionally that all will benefit in the public interest. The Constitution places the responsibility of the provision of water services at local government level, which is the municipalities. This is no doubt meant to ensure the equity element within the distribution. Therefore, municipalities who are deemed to be water authorities are responsible for ensuring the right of access to basic water supply. The reason I have to give this context is because, Chair, from time to time I get the question, why is there no water in Mfuleni? Why is there no water wherever, where there is a municipality there? There was a question here posed by the EFF about why is there no water somewhere here in the Western Cape. They live here, the water authority here is the municipality, but the question is asked of the National Minister. Therefore, water services authorities are responsible for ensuring the right of water is availed to all consumers within their jurisdiction. Having said that, when we experienced a scourge of COVID, we as a national government had to come up with a mechanism that will provide everyone access to this first right of protection against COVID, which is water. We created this mechanism, centered it at the command center at the Rand Water in Johannesburg. I'm extremely proud of the way both the command center and the various municipalities, my DG Changana, and the Auditor General's office helped us provide water through tanks and tankering throughout this period. This, unfortunately, has, however, come to an end. We had determined that by the end of August, we will stop the tankering from a command center. Therefore, Honorable Mvana, what we're doing right now is to ensure that all those tanks that we've provided to the municipalities will now be transferred to the municipalities. The tankers that we were using for the municipalities will be handed over to the municipalities. So before you ask the next question, where will they get the money to maintain this? What we have done is to make sure, having consulted with National Treasury, that we make available 20% of regional bulk water infrastructure grant and water services infrastructure grant to ensure the sustainability of the intervention by connecting water tanks to water sources and making sure there are resources to do that. We're connecting water sources such as existing water main supply in the closest to the target areas, various innovations, refurbishing boreholes throughout the country, etc., etc. This is what we're doing, and the process is underway, and we are hoping that you in the House will help us monitor how this is going. We're very happy with the way that we handled this matter under the command center. This will be our first effort to hand back to local government the responsibility that belongs to local government. Section B of your question, may I continue, Chair, to the section B? Section B of the... Yes.
Please continue.
Okay, thank you. Section B of the question is, how will we make sure that the water is safe and all of those things is clean and is not contaminated and the quality of the water is safe? We have the mechanisms. The water services institutions are there to help us. This is done also through a regulated information system where on a regular basis we test the water and ensure that the water is clean and the water is fit for use. The water services institution are therefore expected to provide drinking water that complies with the national standard of drinking water and submit their analysis on a regular basis to us at national level. Where there is no compliance with water quality, non-compliance letters are issued, and this is immediately communicated, and we terminate the right of that water service to provide water until we're able to intervene. There are a number of other ways in which we are assisting to make sure that the water quality is kept what it should be. We have on the ground additional teams of development workers who are at hand, and should there be any doubt about the quality of water, the command center is still available, or at least the call center, available to take calls from the communities We make ourselves very available through radio, television, and all of those things. And our community workers are on the ground to make sure that our people feel that the water that they're drinking is as safe as it is possible to have. If anybody would find any cause, please lodge your complaint through the same call center that we used during the height of COVID. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Mvana, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'm checking, Chair. Chair, I don't know what's happening. It's the network problem. I'm checking, Chair, with the Honourable Minister, whether can't she share with us one of the challenges she managed to get when this issue, or this term, when she was delivering the water tankers. Thanks.
Minister.
Chair, we could spend the whole night here. We had many challenges. I don't know which particular one Honourable Mvana would be interested in, but we did find that...
Anyone.
Okay, thank you. We did find that at the level of the arrangement of the command center, we worked very well with the municipalities. But at the level of the distribution of the tanks and tankers, we had problems. We would get complaints from the community that the tanks that we had sent out to a particular area were kept at the back of a community worker's house, or a councillor's house, or in the back yard of a particular municipality. I could go on and on. You know, when you're faced with a crisis and you're providing a solution on your feet, as we were trying to do, you're faced with many difficulties. Some of them man-made, some of them inevitable, because nobody planned for the crisis. We learned as we went along. We put up a command council toll-free number so that people could call in and indicate where the problem was, and where we faced this problem, we were able to go out and put out put the water out there. But basically, we also came into contact with personal interests, people who had been used to providing the services to the municipalities, felt that that service still belonged to them, and therefore there was a bit of a tussle at the beginning. But as we worked along, we found that we were able to overcome most of the problems that we have. So far, we have put together a pamphlet which we will make available, because we are very proud of this innovation, and we want to sell it to the world to say it is possible, faced with the kind of scourge that we were faced with, to make sure that everybody has access to that first right of protecting themselves, which was water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Powell. Honourable Powell.
Minister, in the Free State, Bloem Water is in the process of cutting water to 13 towns and villages due to non-payment. The total debt owed to water boards in that province is 6 billion rand. 470 million rand worth of water losses are incurred annually in that province due to a lack of repairs and maintenance. The Premier claims that she is being kept in the dark, while the MEC is scrambling to find money to pay the debt. In the meantime, municipalities are without water during a global pandemic. Minister, what plans has your office put in place to deal with mounting water debt owed to water boards? And can we please get your assurance that water supply to these communities in the Free State will not be further interrupted due to ongoing ANC incompetence? Thank you, Minister.
The Honourable Minister.
This is very strange. The first complaint we had during COVID of a municipality closing of water was in the Western Cape. We called the Premier and said it is not possible, it is not allowed that water should be cut. And there was a long explanation. The matter went on to 702. It ran for a long time. So you cannot stand there and pretend that we're experiencing this for the first time. We learned about this here in the Western Cape and made sure and made sure that our people are given the right of access to water without any interruption, and we would then thereafter work out what is owed to that particular municipality. Yes, indeed, we are experiencing problems with resources, and we're experiencing problems where municipalities are not paying the water boards enough, the money that is owed to them. The money owed to water boards is phenomenal. So what we've decided to do is latch on to a suggestion that came out of the Deputy Presidential Unit dealing with the matter of ESCOM and debt owed to ESCOM by the municipalities, where the team had decided that an ombudsman would be put up to ensure that that money that is owed to ESCOM is paid to ESCOM, otherwise we would have no electricity running. We're latching on to the same scheme, asking that there should be an ombudsman for water, so that all the municipalities that owe our water boards are put under pressure to pay for that water board first and foremost, because this is a natural right. We will hopefully by the end of this month know if this is possible or not. We hold regular briefings between myself and the Minister of Local Government. We've held a common...
Honorable members, please do not disrupt the minister while she's responding to questions. Honorable James, switch off your microphone. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. So we're hoping to latch on to this idea so that we are able to give the necessary resources to the water boards. 3 of our water boards are really in distress because they have not been paid by the municipalities money for them to continue providing them with an essential service such as this one. Thank you. However, finally, I think it is important to indicate that we are making it illegal for anybody to cut water during this period until such time as we lift this moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next supplementary question will go to the Honorable Ngwezi.
Ngiyathokoza kakhulu sihlalo.
Honorable Ngwezi, unmute your microphone. We can't hear you.
Siyathokoza kakhulu sihlalo womhlangano. Sibingelela kungqongqoshe namalungu onke eParliament, ikakhulukazi lawo endloveni amandla. Ngqongqoshe, nesikhathi lesi se-COVID-19, umnyango wethu wezamanzi nokuthuthwa nezezindlu nokuthuthwa kwendle wamemezela izumbulu zemali. Sajabula nje sibuka isimemezelo wawusenza ngqongqoshe, sicabanga ukuthi indawo zasemakhaya ziyozuza ohlelweni lokuhlinzeka kwamanzi ahlanzekile, njengoba sazi ukuthi sekunesikhathi eside abantu abahlala endaweni zasemakhaya bengenawo amanzi ahlanzekile. Sasicabanga ukuthi ke bazozuza, kodwa kuyajabhisa ukuthi namhlanje abantu bakoNkandla, abantu bakojozini, nabantu bonke nje abahlala endaweni zasemakhaya, abantu bakomhlaba yalingana, basaphila esimene esifanayo, kodwa kunemali eningi espendwe umnyango iya komasipala nakuma water boards. Now umbuzo wami ke uthi ngempela ngqongqoshe singabeka siphi isikhathi la esithi khona ngalesi sikhathi abantu bakithi abahlala endaweni zasemakhaya bazobe sebenalo uhlelo oluqondile lokuhlinzeka ngamanzi kanye nezizindlu nokuthuthwa kwendle okuhlanzekile lapha eNingizimu Afrika. Ngiyathokoza.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister.
Siyathokoza nathi babungwezi. Babungwezi ngingajabula ukuthi uzame ukuthi unga-exaggerate kakhulu. Sikhulume nje ngale simo sikuso khona manje. Unihaba. I just want to indicate to Honorable Ngwezi that what he is saying is indeed true. It is taking us a long time to ensure that everybody has equal access to clean running water. And that is because we inherited a situation that we have. We need to make sure that we can put in the infrastructure that reaches the furthest corners of our country to make sure that people who live in rural areas are able to access water. However, the gap between what is necessary and what we inherited requires a great deal of infusion of water into this. We have therefore decided that we're going to try an approach that has worked, which is the approach that we use now in the command center. We are leaving the tanks that we bought for those areas there where they are. In fact, what happened to us is running the command center indicated to us where the greatest need was. So we have found a way in which, in the short term, as we make sure that infrastructure reaches all of these areas, we use that method that has worked. We will put tanks where water is necessary. We will take tankers to where water is needed. This is not a sustainable way of making sure that everybody has access to clean running water. It is a very expensive way, but it is also a way that will solve the problem that we live with now of inequality in the most essential matters that matter to life and death. And therefore, Babungwezi, wherever you are, there's a municipality there. Please, your responsibility as a member of parliament is to make sure that your constituency is represented. Approach the nearest municipality and say, you can apply for more water tanks for the time being, as we try to make sure that water is available to all. It is almost, Babungwezi, like saying, but why is it that the sun sets at 7, lie Western Cape, and it sets at 8 there? That is just the history of this country, which we have found here, and we are battling to make sure that we can get to where you are, Babungwezi. The short-term measure that we're giving you now is to create some form of equality. One day, I can't and indicate when it will be. But I like your question because it will make sure that the Minister of Finance understands the situation of water and perhaps provides us with the necessary resources to make it possible. I hope I'm not now stretching it too much. But I'm very happy that this has been raised because the infrastructure for water is absolutely essential. The difference between ourselves as human beings and any other species is the fact that we need more water than any other species. Water is essential for everybody, and we are intent on making sure. Babungwezi, with your support, even your voting support, we will get to every district in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Moshlala. The Honourable Moshlala.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Honourable Hlangweni will take it in her place.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, water in South Africa is directly your responsibility. And that little tantrum that you have thrown earlier on, an egocentric answer that you have given, stop the tendencies of your entitlement behavior.
I object to that. I object to that, Chairperson. I object to that, and I request that I will not answer
Honourable
that.
Member, Honourable Hlangweni, I want to take a point of order.
Yes, Chair, I'm listening to the point of order.
Honourable Minister, were you rising on a point of order, Honourable Minister?
Point of order. Chair, I ask for your protection from those insults that come from the EFF. They are completely unfounded. I don't know where they come from. I am here to answer questions, and I have answered questions to the best of my ability. I want her to withdraw what she has said. Absolutely withdraw every word of insult that she has said.
Chair, can you take the answer and come back to the Honourable Minister?
Honourable Hlangweni, the remarks that you made to the person of the Minister is in violation of Rule 84.
Which one?
You're using unparliamentary and unacceptable language. Please withdraw.
Chair, I please, can I ask you to go and look at Hansard and make a follow-up ruling? Because I said, can I say what I've said, Chair? Can I say what I've said? I have said, can I also protect myself?
I'm not asking
you to protect myself. Can I also protect myself?
What you said, you must withdraw.
What did I say, Chair? What did I say? Can you say what did I say?
You know,
can you
point of order.
Honourable Frolik, what did I say?
We can even send Hansard to you so that you can read
Yes,
it again.
please, before I withdraw, I request that the answer be sent to me.
Honourable
Can you
Member,
please
withdraw
tell
the
me what
remark.
I've said?
No, don't.
Honourable Member, withdraw the remark.
On a point of order, Chairperson.
Honourable, I'm not dealing now with Honourable Langa, I'm dealing with Honourable Shuleni. I'm asking.
Point of order,
It's fine, I will withdraw. I will withdraw, but I will request the answer. I will withdraw, but I will request the answer.
Please ask your question now.
The level of urgency and speed with which delivery of water to some communities was during lockdown was commendable. Even though not all effective, because many communities still remain without water.
There's a point of order in the chamber. Honourable House Chair, there's a point of order in the chamber.
Will the Honourable Member ask and put the point of order so that I can hear what it is?
Thank you.
House Chair, there's a distinction between robust debate and unparliamentary language. There was nothing unparliamentary about what the Honourable Member said. And you couldn't even repeat what she said because you didn't hear it. It was totally unfair to make her withdraw.
Are you challenging my ruling, Honourable Member? I've made the ruling, please take your seat. You are not presiding in the session. Take your seat. Continue, Honourable Slangweni.
What plans do you have in place to ensure that the supply of water to communities is made permanent beyond COVID, Minister? And can we please stop this egocentric behavior that you are portraying, an entitled behavior that you are portraying? You need to answer each and every drop of water. You are the minister responsible for this department. And we're going to ask it to you, Minister, no one else. Thank you.
A point of order. Honourable House Chair, there's another point of order in the chamber by Honourable Zulu.
Chairperson, the very same rule that was referred to in the first instance of the member who continues to be disrespectful, who continues to, I don't know what to call her. She's got nothing to do with where Minister Sisulu comes from and background and all.
What's the point of order?
The point of order is that the member cannot repeat the same thing when she was asked to withdraw. That's the point of order. That she wasn't in the struggle has got nothing to do with us.
Honourable members, I did not hear the last part of the remark that the Honourable Member made now was asking the question. I will look into that part and I will come back with a ruling. In the meantime, I'll request the Minister to respond, please.
Thank you very much. I'd like to support what the Honourable Minister has had. You represent the people. You represent the people that murdered our people.
Members,
you do.
Honourable members, will you calm down?
Murderer.
Honourable Minister, please respond.
I will. You represent the murderers, people. Chairperson, can I continue?
No, must shut up in the house.
Honourable Janki, you are there in the chamber and it seems to me we are having the disruption coming from the chamber. Can you please instruct those honourable members to calm down so that we can get the reply from the Minister? The Honourable Minister.
Can they be removed?
The Minister must come down, Chair. She's the problem.
Honourable Minister.
House Chair.
Are you there?
It is what entitlement.
I've got a point of order.
Honourable Shangwini, I will ask now the Sergeant of Arms to remove you from the platform. Thank you.
There's another point of order, Honourable House Chair, in the chamber before the Minister.
Proceed, Honourable Member.
House Chair, during the exchange when the Minister was trying to respond, he pointed to my colleague, this side, and called him a murderer. That is against the rules of this House. and the minister said it on record. So I'll ask the minister to withdraw that because that is unparliamentary. Thanks.
Honourable members, I will liaise with the Honourable Janki, who is in the chamber, and then I will deal with the matter. But I want the minister now to reply to the follow-up question. The Honourable Minister.
Honourable Chair, allow me to indicate this. What the EFF member was saying has nothing to do with my position as minister. This is something that they use as a slur to throw at people who have struggled to bring this country to where we are. We're not ashamed of what we have done, nor are we entitled. That is why we're able to share this chamber with people who fought against us. And we are told to have a thick skin. We are told to have a thick skin. We throw back to them that these are representatives of the murderers and oppressors. Representatives. If we are entitled...
Order, Minister.
Minister.
If we for
Honourable
fighting...
members, Honourable Minister, will you take your seat now, please? There's too much disruption. Honourable members, it's quite clear that in terms of the last question asked, that we do not have sufficient time for a response. I thus rule that the time allocated for questions has expired and outstanding replies received will be printed in answer. That concludes the business for the day and the House is adjourned.
We have voted in Parliament, not NC.
That's of the minister.
Yeah, the minister of vote.
Arrogance. Arrogance.
That's enough.
You can't behave like that.
That was voted in the honorable
racist.
Arrogance. You must EFF.
Okay, I was just talking to Shireen.
We are listening.
I was just talking to a colleague of mine. He says he will beam, but we might just need help in terms of the load shedding because our problem is going to be load shedding at 8 when the lights go off. He doesn't know how it's going to affect him in terms of connectivity. So there's just the 8 o'clock possibility that's just going to be an issue. But other than that, we will beam from the side.
No, we can take over if there's a problem after that.
Okay. Sure.
Thanks.